the man you're looking at, depending on who you ask, is either a Russian leader who just cares about politics or the richest man on the planet.
Russia has proven that the best thing to be is an oligarch, which is Russian for rich guy, don't ask where his money came from.
Is it possible that the oligarchs have enough power?
You see, most of us might think that Elon is the richest man and probably the first future trillionaire, but Elon himself, thinks otherwise.
Being at a net worth of 230 billion, roughly, being perceived as the richest person on Earth.
Well, I think Putin is significantly richer than me.
You really do, yeah?
Yes.
You know, some people got rich not because of their wits, but because of their connections to power.
I've got this information from my confidential sources.
What figure did you come up with for Vladimir Putin's wealth?
In the United States, most billionaires got rich from entrepreneurship, inventing products from scratch without the mercies of any central entity. They had to hustle and grind, trying to discover if the product is even viable or if it's just a waste of time. They tried creating a minimum viable product and tried marketing the product to college students, and by good luck, it happened to work out. But if you're a Russian oligarch, that's not part of your vocabulary. Hustling, grinding, minimum viable product? No.
It's not like you can go to Russia, set up a business, succeed, and be allowed to succeed.
Come with me as I show you the future trillionaires, and I hope you've watched part 1 and 2.
Any person who sets up a business in Russia has to become part of the criminal organization. If you don't, you...
Now, you might ask, what does Vladimir Putin got to do with trillionaire status? He's just a president with no assets under his name or management. He appears nowhere in the Forbes billionaires list. His presidential salary is just a meager $140,000 a year. Let me go deeper where things are quite unimaginable.
Right, you see Putin on the Forbes list? It's a flex to not be on the Forbes list. There's people that are literally trillionaires.
Let's say you're Vladimir Putin. It's 1991 and Boris Yeltsin is about to assume power as president. You watch oligarchs like Boris Berezovsky fund his campaign to get Boris re-elected. Oligarchs like him are the ones ruling Russia, but as figures in the shadows pulling the strings. You also watch Boris Yeltsin turn his back on communism and privatizes most government-owned assets like oil companies. Basically, those companies are up for grabs at throwaway prices. I mean, the prices are as low as $100 million, despite them being worth billions of dollars. And also, these oligarchs have control on how the government is run. This is basically a reward for making Boris Yeltsin re-elected. Of course, Putin, a nobody back then, is not quite pleased by this. Fast forward to the year 2000, Putin became the most powerful man in Russia, and he knew this was his time to play his cards right. And like I said before, $1 trillion is no joke. You just have to be brutal. So Putin hatched a plan. The first step: snatch power from the oligarchs. But how?
When Putin was originally fighting with the oligarchs when he first came to power because they were stealing power from him. And so in order to regain the power of the presidency, in 2003, he arrested the richest oligarch in the country, a man named Michael Khodorkovsky, the owner of Yukos. They dragged him off of his airplane, his private jet, put him on trial in Moscow. And when you go on trial in Moscow...
Talk about a reset, huh?
Indeed. When you go on trial in Moscow, there's a 99.7% conviction rate, so they put you in a cage because there's no presumption of innocence. And so they had him sit in a cage, and they allowed the television cameras to film the richest man in Russia sitting in a cage. Now imagine you're the 17th richest man in Russia, and you saw the richest guy, far smarter, far more powerful than you, sitting in a cage. What's your reaction to that? You don't want to sit in that cage. And so one by one, after Michael Khodorkovsky was convicted, these other oligarchs went to Vladimir Putin and said, what do we have to do to not sit in the cage? And he said, it's very straightforward, 50%. Not 50% for the Russian government or 50% for the presidential administration of Russia, 50% for Vladimir Putin. And so he became the richest man in the world in that moment.
Yes, and that is quite interesting because there's so many billionaire oligarchs and half of their fortune goes to Putin, which means if Abramovich is worth $10 billion, 5 of those billions goes to Putin. Mikhail Prokhorov is worth $11 billion, $5.5 billion is Putin's, and so on and so forth. This is Bill Browder, the CEO of Hermitage Capital Management. In 2017, he testified before the Senate that he believed Vladimir's net worth to be over $200 billion, making him the richest man in the world. And by now, his wealth must have grown to $500 billion. But you might ask, where is he keeping all this money?
It's very simple. The oligarchs are holding money for Putin.
But it's deeper. They don't just keep that money in Russia. They have to take it somewhere else, a place presumably safer from the prying eyes of the masses.
Britain is the world's biggest enabler of financial crime. There is just so much of this property owned by oligarchs.
We've found £1.5 billion worth of UK property that's owned by Russians who are either connected to corruption or have close ties to the Kremlin.
But, you might ask, how are detectives not able to trace anything, any property to Putin? That's where something interesting comes in. You see, corrupt individuals have invented a way of investing money acquired through corruption in legitimate businesses like real estate, but in a hidden identity. Shell companies.
But in the 20th century, particularly in the second half, we developed this wonderful idea of the shell company. And a shell company is a corporate structure, an investment vehicle. It looks like any other company, but all it does is pretend to be something other than you. So it's a little bit like wearing gloves. It keeps your fingerprints off whatever it is you're holding.
The fact that nothing is yet to trace to Putin means that it's working.
Now, if you're being particularly careful, you don't just use one shell company, but you use multiple shell companies, because it is possible for the police to find out who own a shell company eventually. It's like wearing gloves and more gloves and more gloves, and every time the police take one pair of gloves off, all they find is another glove.
So Putin could actually be the first trillionaire, we just don't know it. But, with all that being said,
which is saying a lot, and he says that artificial intelligence will create the world's first trillionaire.
Artificial intelligence. There's one guy I know of that's smart enough to take advantage of this.
Jensen, so let's talk scaling AI adoption here.
Nobody has to program. What we're at now is the beginning of the next wave of AI, the biggest wave of AI.
When I mention AI to you, you'll think of ChatGPT, Gemini, things like Mid-Journey for image generation.
So it's happening very fast and it's unlimited. A lot of it is super good.
But what if I told you AI is far much deeper than that? Algorithms, machine learning, robotics.
Because every previous information technology, it simply copied and disseminated our ideas. The printing press just produced more books. Television just broadcast our thoughts. Here we have something that can create entirely new ideas, which are not even bound by the limits of our imagination. Our imagination is the product of organic biochemistry. AI is not limited by that.
Now, for AI to make you a trillionaire, you'll have to make it scalable and global. And you'll have to make it such that every human needs it and is willing to pay for that value. But there's a catch. It's not easy.
Is building a company and building a video turned out to have been a million times harder than any of us expected it to be. And at that time, if we realized the pain and suffering and just how vulnerable you're going to feel and the challenges that you're going to endure, the embarrassment and the shame and the list of all the things that go wrong, I don't think anybody would start a company. Nobody in their right mind would do it. And I think that's the superpower of an entrepreneur. They don't know how hard it is. And they only ask themselves, how hard can it be? And to this day, I trick my brain into thinking, how hard can it be?
If it was easy, then everyone would be doing it. So Jensen Huang knew he couldn't power AI with the normal CPU. So he invented the GPU that changed graphics from this to this. NVIDIA did a demo showing how they had to innovate. Watch this.
And he's going to paint a picture for you guys in the way that a CPU might do it, as a series of discrete actions performed sequentially, one after the other. Let me speed it up. Ladies and gentlemen,
Leonardo 2.0.
When we hit this trigger on this thing, 2,100 gallons of air goes through these accumulators, out these valves, into all 1,100 of these tubes, into these tubes in which the bottom of is a paintball. Each of those paintballs will fly across 7 feet of space and in 80 milliseconds reach its target. Hopefully, when it's all said and done, it's going to paint the Mona Lisa.
GPU painting demonstration.
Yep.
And
ladies and gentlemen, science class is now over. Thank you.
This phenomenon of making graphics look cooler is very useful in many industries. Gaming, animation, and VFX, generative AI, which made ChatGPT and image generation possible. Software engineering, yeah, you heard him say that in the future, no one will have to code.
AI is not going to take your jobs. The person who uses AI is going to take your job. Do you guys agree with that? Okay, so use AI as fast as you can so that you can stay gainfully employed.
But I think when it comes to coding, it's only the guys who code the simple stuff like websites and mobile apps will be replaced. Now, let's narrow down to gaming. I want us to do some math. The total number of gamers globally is 3.2 billion. That's almost half the planet. And who is at the bottom of the supply chain? NVIDIA. And who is the man behind NVIDIA? Jensen Huang. And that's just gaming. We haven't even talked in depth about CGI, like who doesn't watch movies, especially the CGI-intensive ones, like the Avengers franchise. So Jensen Huang has mastered the art of global domination, which is one important quality you need to make $1 trillion. Which reminds me of another thing.
No strings on me.
Humanoid robots.
So, and I think if you sell it for $20,000 or something, this is at large scale volume. Tesla would basically make about $1 trillion of profit a year.
Bingo.
You see, who wouldn't want one?
I think everyone in the world is going to want one. Like literally everyone.
It's no wonder tech companies have taken notice. Some Wall Street analysts predict these robots are the next must-have device, not unlike smartphones or EVs.
This man is a genius, and I like him. He's so good at identifying what most people really want. If Elon believes in making $1 trillion off of this, then you should too. But why is this even important? Automation.
But they also say such robots would be vital for manufacturing and dangerous work, but they would also help with elderly care and fill in labor shortages in factories.
Robots could do all dangerous jobs, boring jobs, tedious jobs that humans don't want to do. You might think, well, I don't really need this. I can do basically everything by myself anyway. But think again. Take this as the introduction of the personal computer. People thought they didn't need it. But now, you literally can't walk without a computer. So Mark Cuban is right. It will make the first trillionaire. A Jewish family most of us currently know of as the Rothschild family. These guys are secretly controlling the planet, and it all started with one man.
1.4 trillion. Oh my God, who is this guy? The Rothschild families.
Yeah, for sure.
There's probably a bunch of those little scoundrels running around taking a piece of that pie.
Mayer Rothschild, a successful banker who hatched a plan for global domination. So what did he decide to do? He had 5 sons, Amschel, Nathan, Jakob, Salomon, and Karl. He sent them to every major city in Europe to set up bank branches. They were the great financiers of their time. They financed so many industries, including one devastating thing: war. You see, the main reason why these guys are trillionaires is because they can manipulate policies to favor their business ventures. Banking is one of the most profitable businesses. Why? Because it's a deceptive way of making money. Imagine making money by lending money that's not even yours. Then you get to charge high interest rates. Because of course, like I said, you control government policies. Banks make so much money on interest. For instance, JP Morgan Chase made an interest income of $49 billion in 2023 alone. So the same to the Rothschilds, they are trillionaires and probably close to quadrillionaires because nowadays it's not just banking. They control. They own investments in almost every industry you think of. Now let's talk about you. If you've gotten this far, you are a legend. I am quite sure when you clicked this video, you wanted to understand about money and the art of acquiring vast amounts of wealth. Yes, sure, you've heard me talk of Jensen Huang, Elon Musk, Russian oligarchs. But the truth is those guys were just like you at some point in life. Just listen to this.
It is the most extraordinary thing, Bill, that a normal dishwasher busboy could grow up to be this. There's no magic, it's just 61 years of hard work every single day. I don't think there's anything more than that.
Well, that was the summer of '95. I had no money whatsoever. I was working, doing research in Silicon Valley on a completely different subject and trying to start this company at the same time. And when it came time to decide, do I want to do graduate studies or do I want to start this company? And I decided to start the company. I had no money. As a graduate student, I would have received a scholarship and a stipend and so forth. In starting the company, I had nothing. I had no income source. So we found that an office was actually cheaper than an apartment in Silicon Valley. So we got this dinky little office that had a leaky roof. It was just the nastiest place you can imagine.
And you lived in it too?
And I lived in it too and showered at the YMCA. This lasted for about 3 or 4 months.
In the journey to financial success, the dream can be as large as you dare to imagine. Some may aspire to be millionaires, but why not aim for a trillionaire status? A trillionaire is not just a person with a lot of money. The few individuals with this kind of wealth don't only control vast resources, but also have the power to shape entire industries, like what Elon did with electric cars. They can lead the way in solving some of the world's greatest challenges, like climate change. And these guys don't even care about trillions of dollars. They are quite selfless. Elon even decided to open source Tesla patents.
I'm not sure if you know, but we open sourced our patents. So anyone who wants to use our patents can use them for free.
Your patents are open source?
Yeah. So if somebody comes and makes a better electric car than Tesla, and it's so much better than ours that we can't sell our cars and we go bankrupt, I still think that's a good thing for the world.
OpenAI couldn't have existed without Elon, and his main goal was to make it open source, not closed source, like it is now. One character necessary to be a trillionaire is selflessness. Making things as free as possible is so key. Mark Zuckerberg also tries to make meta products as free as possible. While becoming a trillionaire may seem like an audacious goal, the first step is embracing the mindset that financial abundance is possible for anyone willing to commit to their vision. The key lies in dedication, smart investments, and creating value at a scale that transforms the world. Always remember, the journey toward financial greatness begins with a single step, and with the right ambition, the sky isn't the limit. It's just the beginning. Believing in the possibility is the first step to achieving it. I've read some of your comments like this and this. I just want to let you know you can do this. For those who dream big, reaching trillionaire status isn't just about wealth. It's about the unparalleled power to make a difference in the world. And before I let you go, remember, don't chase money. Money is just a byproduct of value. So give people as much value as possible, and they'll give you money. And by the way, this is the comment of the month.